video of what public schools will look like come September.
Activity areas such as sand and water tables have been removed from kindergarten classrooms. Work and play areas have been well spaced for physical distancing.
Now, the video goes on to explain that there will be enhanced cleaning and disinfecting of high-touch surfaces, as well as the physical distancing measures that are in place. Both school boards have extended parents' return to school decision until this Friday. They'll have to decide whether to send their children to school or keep them at home and use virtual learning. All this happening as the COVID case count in Windsor, Essex starts to drop. Katie, you've been on these morning briefings every single day. We're starting to see more days with single-digit increases. What's the latest?
Certainly, the curve seems to be flattening again here in Windsor, Essex. Over the weekend, we only had 4 new cases to report. 2 were travel-related, and another 2 were close contacts of someone who had the virus already. And today, just 6 new cases reported. 2 are farm workers, 1 is a resident of a retirement home, and 3 others contracted the virus from somebody they knew that had it. So the numbers have been low over the past week, and this consistent lull is something that we haven't seen since the end of May.
Yeah, a major change since July when those double-digit increases continued to happen, but also something new in August is stage 3. The questions that people have been asking Dr. Ahmed, what have they been about more recently?
Well, it's clear that some people may be looking for loopholes in this new stage 3 era for Windsor, Essex. Today, the health unit specifically outlined the rules for indoor and outdoor gatherings. And that's because people were trying to combine those numbers so they could have larger get-togethers. So to be clear, for indoor events, there's a gathering limit of 50 people, and for outdoor events, that number is 100 people. So if you are having an indoor-outdoor event, like a wedding or something like that, you do not get to add those numbers together, Chris.
Okay, thanks for this, Katie.
No problem.
Many people have had to discuss some less than comfortable topics during our time in quarantine. A local lawyer says that people have been reaching out to get their wills completed. He says there's good reason to make sure your will is in order should the worst come to pass.
I believe people are more concerned about it, but it's taken on more of an urgency. Before it was just something that you do, part of anything else in organizing, your affairs and things like that. Now I think it's just become more real. And I think it's also, as much as people want to get it done, there's also the anxiety because it's almost coming to a realization that I may need this sooner rather than later. So it's funny because it's almost like a push-pull for some people that doing it gets you to focus on what's going on around you. And it actually kind of inhibits you in a sense to doing it because then you have to come to that realization. Not doing it or making sure whatever you have is not up to date is going to be far more anxiety created than doing it. And I find after that while people kind of come to a realization and get there, but there's no question about that. It's very real now than it was 6 months ago.
Legal Wills is offering Canadian educators free services this month ahead of school in September, something that the company had previously done for healthcare workers. Companies selling cars and car parts are seeing a sharp spike in sales, not at pre-pandemic levels, but the new numbers from Statistics Canada show some recovery. First, we see vehicle sales. That's more than doubling in June, with plants like FCA's Windsor assembly plant back in action over the summer months. More cars, more parts. It's good for this area as well, seeing another increase for the second consecutive month. But this number here, that shows that there's still a good chunk of work left to do. Sales down by about a quarter compared to last June. Now, to get a sense of where things sit locally, I called out Flavio Volpe, head of the Automotive Parts Manufacturers Association. When you look at what's happening for parts manufacturers now during this pandemic, what are you seeing?
We're seeing annualized numbers that reflect what Stats Can is talking about. We've also seen in the short term, so the first couple months of the pickup, a lot of car maker customers of ours have asked for 100% volume. And we sat there and you question, you say, look, if the market hasn't returned for cars, why are car makers looking for extra volume from us? I think we're all learned a little bit from this pandemic and this shutdown that cost us at $343 billion in Canada. We may go back there when there's a second wave or a third wave. And car makers are learning that, look, we've set up new workplaces so that maybe these are localized shutdowns. But if you have a localized shutdown or your supplier does, maybe you should have a little bit more inventory on hand. It's been a good boost for us, plants in the Southwest, to get back to some critical volumes. A lot of people who analyze, a lot of the industry analysts who analyze the retail market say we're still off. On some nameplates, 15% off, some 5% off of what the expected curve was going to be. But given where we were 3 months ago, it's not bad.
3 months ago, I believe me and you were talking about the big shift that people in Windsor, Essex, and across the South were making. Has anybody stuck with that they've no longer going to be creating car parts, or they're no longer going to be part of the economy that they were in the past, and have shifted to that medical section?
Nobody has stuck to it as a replacement for automotive, but there are several companies that are staying with it. A company like ABC, one of the biggest plastic suppliers, part suppliers in the country, has launched its own division. A medical goods division. Companies like Windsor Mold were very, very critical in volumes on face shields, and we think companies like that, companies like Laval Tool, who really were at the forefront of creating the tooling for N95 masks. I think they're all sitting there saying, if we've got a second wave and we need the volume, we'll stay in there. Until then, we're going to make parts and tools.
An Indigenous non-binary multimedia artist is using material from around the city and creating artwork with it. They're the first artists in residence at Art Site here in Windsor. Their work connects back to their Indigenous identity and also tries to create a better representation for other Indigenous queer people.
So hello, my name is Ostro Patatagoose. I am of the Elk Clan. I'm Anishinaabe of Atikamashin and Anishinaabe, which is a place 15 minutes outside of Sudbury. I am a transgender, non-binary individual, artist working in Windsor, Ontario. Just even being allowed into a space like this is just such an exciting opportunity for someone like me. But at the same time, there's also a little bit of anxiety attached to that because I am representing a group, essentially. So coming into the space and thinking to myself that this isn't just for me, that this is for other people as well. That really also grounds me a lot, and it ensures that I kind of get away from personalizing this and making sure that I'm doing the best that I can with the space that I have, because I want this to be continuous for other people beyond me. This is actually an evolving work in which anytime I bring a piece in, I actually start changing the layout of this, and then also potentially seeing how the pieces interact with one another, and then moving them based on the feelings that I'm getting from it.
We've had new space to sort of open up our gallery space to new voices and to showcase new Black-led and Indigenous-led projects. And this will become an annual event that happens in the space where 1 month every year, an artist from the Windsor-Essex area will be invited in.
Art is always changing. The social, the economic environments, the natural environments that they're coming from are always changing. And I feel that this should always be reflecting that.
A mixed martial artist from Windsor has accomplished the dream of a lifetime. TJ Laramie competed in his first professional fight back in 2015. Now, just 5 years later, he's made it into the UFC. With more, I'm joined live in studio by the CBC's Sanjay Maru. Sanjay, how did this all come about here?
Well, Chris, it all went down last Tuesday on Dana White's Contender Series. The show features unsigned fighters facing off to impress the UFC president. Put on an impressive performance, and you're likely to be granted a UFC contract that very same night. Consider it an audition for the UFC. And boy, did Laramie pass with flying colors, earning a first-round TKO victory. But the journey of the 22-year-old didn't come together easily. It started with losing not just one, but 3 close family members at an early age. I spoke with Laramie about why the date of his Contender Series fight carries such a strong meaning.
I was able to actually win the contract on her birthday.
The birthday of his mother, who died when Laramie was just 8 years old.
You know, it's just like, it's crazy how it all lined up for that.
TJ, the Truth, Laramie!
The 22-year-old's used to fighting in front of big crowds. The UFC's Contender Series would normally allow friends and family to attend, but they were absent from the biggest fight of Laramie's career due to COVID-19.
There's no crowd, which is something I haven't done. No walkout music for this. There's no, even when you get in the cage, they don't have an announcement of your name or your opponent's name. Everything about the situation was a lot different than what I'm used to.
His striking coach believes the lack of fans actually helped alleviate some of the pressure. In fact, with most gyms shut down, Laramie spent most of his time training for the biggest fight of his life in his coach's backyard.
Woo! 3-2. 3-2 high 2. 3-2 high 2 high 1.
So he is consistently on this growth path, and he is the one that will get there because he's so well-rounded, and he listens and he works his butt off.
3-2 low 2 high 1.
Laramie's currently staying in Winnipeg to reconnect with his girlfriend, with plans to fly home to Windsor and then back to Las Vegas, where most of his training will emanate.
What do you think your mom would say if she could see where you were at now?
Honestly, I don't know. You can say it's a coincidence or whatever, you know what I mean? But it's just stuff like that that makes me think, believe in being in the right place at the right time kind of thing, you know? I know she'd be proud for sure.
Laramie tells me he's targeting his first bout as a signed UFC fighter shortly before the end of this year, around November or December. He's also considering dropping down a weight class. Most of his fights have been contested in the featherweight division, 145 pounds, but he's also open to accepting a fight at the bantamweight division, 135. He also says not spending as much time in Windsor means his side gig as a barber may have to take a back seat, but he's still open to cutting people's hair whenever he's in the area. Chris.
Thanks, Ajay. The CBC Sunday Mari live tonight. And a live look outside here as we look at the clouds. A chance that they contain a thunderstorm, but it's Colette Kennedy who knows all more about this than I do. We will let her explain the forecast coming up after the break. In the U.S., the Democratic National Convention kicks off today in Milwaukee. Democrats are preparing to officially name Biden as the party's candidate for the presidential election, with Kamala Harris as his running mate. But the ongoing risk of the pandemic means that no crowds are at the event, as most party members and supporters gather online for the unconventional event. Democrats and even some Republicans will rally around Biden as they campaign to vote Donald Trump out of the White House. Today's big name appearances include Biden's rival turned supporter Bernie Sanders and former First Lady Michelle Obama. Harris, Biden's VP pick, is going to speak on Wednesday, the same day former President Barack Obama joins the virtual convention. The presidential hopeful himself is scheduled to accept the nomination and deliver his keynote speech on Thursday. Strict warnings and bad weather didn't keep people out of the St. Clair River.
Well, safe paddles. We'll do what he takes.
Now, Sunday had marked the annual float down in Sarnia. Officials had asked people to not attend because of potential COVID-19 spread and the border remaining closed between the two countries. This year, though, a smaller turnout. Strong winds and rain also put a damper on the otherwise popular event. Joining us now is Colette Kennedy. It looks like it was a fun time normally, but now with the winds, the water, the spread of the pandemic, and then the border being closed, it's just a hard time to spend on a rubber duck and have fun.
I guess it is kind of, and we've even got some active weather out there right now, Chris, that we're looking at with some of the showers that are coming in. We had a temperature just last hour that was 27 degrees, and then it's dropped 3-4 degrees in just an hour with some light rain showers that are making their way in. I'm going to show you the radar here in just a moment. Hard to be on a rubber ducky at the moment and having fun too, but I want to show you what our weather headlines are looking like. So some isolated showers, I mean highly highly possible on Tuesday. Otherwise, we're actually going to see some pretty nice conditions coming our way. Cooler, comfy for a couple of days anyway, and then some heat coming back towards the end of the week. I think we've sort of seen this pattern, haven't we? Average high at this time of year, you see it here. Today's high unofficially 27. Today's low, okay, our lows are pretty much on track in terms of what we're seeing. These are the current temperatures. So as I say, it kind of just dropped here just over this last hour, even though it's a fairly light rain shower, but there's something a little bit heavier in the region here, kind of pushing out over the lake here that I'm going to show you. You can see just crossing over Lake St. Clair, we're seeing some of that action there, kind of coming between Windsor and Chatham-Kent. More action to the north of us too. But if we take kind of a broader perspective, you can see back over Michigan that things are drier. So what's coming in for the rest of the evening is actually going to be this pattern where we are getting into a drier trend, a clearing trend. We're going to see those winds though kind of turning towards the northwest. They're more northeasterly and a little gusty right now. They're going to turn towards the northwest as we get towards tomorrow morning, and they'll be a little bit breezy through the day tomorrow, so it's going to feel, maybe a little bit cooler in that sense. It's just going to be kind of, fresher. Let's put it like that. We'll have a fresher day, a fresher feel to the air as we go into the day on Tuesday. But have a look around in terms of what's coming our way. I say isolated risk. On Tuesday, a little bit of a cloud patch that comes in here, and that's where you could get a little bit of a sprinkle coming out of it into tomorrow afternoon. It'll be very hard to come by. Not only that, into Wednesday, Thursday as well. We've got high pressure building back in again. And with that, it's bringing us dry conditions and lots of sunshine. Overnight tonight, your temperatures look like this, so very similar to our averages, with our lows being right there around 16. As we get into that clearing trend, there are those northerly winds, north to northwesterly, so a little bit breezy, and temperatures pretty close to seasonal, maybe just that tiny bit below in terms of what we'll be seeing. Temperatures, though, as we get towards the end of the week, that's when they're going to start to warm up a little bit, and then we get that 30. That 3 wants to come back, Chris. Whether you like it or not, a little bit of humidity is going to come back with it as well.
No, not the worst thing in the world.
No,
the number that we're looking at right now is 15, which is how much the Raptors currently lead in Game 1. I noticed you're wearing Raptors red. I thought I'd give a little bit of an update.
Thank you for that update. You know what? My hat was in my car, so I literally took this off my dog's back. I took her kerchief right off of her. I'm going to wear it.
True fandom. True fandom. You're a better fan than I. Got a little bit of my Raptors red, but it's not the way. We're trying what we can here. We're watching during the commercial breaks. We're checking in.
Yeah, we're working hard and watching. Go Raps.
Exactly. No, exactly. Thanks for this, Colette.
You're welcome.
Now, coming up next, cyber attacks targeting the government's online services. The Canada Revenue Agency temporarily shutting down online access. More on this story. Federal officials say the recent cyber attacks targeting the government's online services have been brought under control. The Canada Revenue Agency has temporarily shut down online access after 3 separate cybersecurity incidents. Authorities say that they know how the hackers gained access and what to do to prevent it next time. But as Alison Northcott reports, they still don't know who's behind it.
And when I was looking through, I noticed that my banking information had changed. And so I was called the CRA and all the institutions that I needed to stop all my accounts and make sure that no fraudulent activity continued on them.
When Jennifer Fink noticed changes to her CRA account she had not made herself, she knew something was wrong. Hers was one of more than 11,000 accounts affected by a series of recent cyber attacks.
The Government of Canada has been taking action to respond to attacks called credential stuffing, mounted on the GC Key Services and CRA accounts.
The Canadian government says the attacks targeted sites millions of Canadians use, including Canada Revenue Agency, in an attempt to access government benefits fraudulently.
This is not an attack where a hacker is trying to go through the back door. They are going into the system just like normal users. They are applying credentials just like normal users. So it's very hard to detect that pattern from all of the good traffic.
He says usernames and passwords stolen in previous breaches from third parties were used to access CRA accounts. Those affected will get a letter in the mail with instructions on what to do. As for who is behind this and how much money was fraudulently obtained, the government says that's now part of an RCMP investigation.
Those hackers bet on the fact that people most of the time are reusing the same password over and over again.
So a key piece of advice is to always use a unique password and username, but some say the government has a role to play too.
Institutions, just like the federal government, if they want to make sure to secure that platform to a level that is above any wrongdoings, maybe they should revise how we can access those.
Certainly, we apologize for any inconvenience on
The CRA says it expects its online services to be restored later this week, but Canadians are being urged to monitor their banking and other sensitive accounts closely. Alison Northcott, CBC News, Montreal.
And finally tonight, a video of something that's gone a bit viral. Some might even say it's the epitome of 2020. A load of trash caught fire in a garbage truck in Toronto. The driver dumped the waste onto the street. Crews quickly on scene to extinguish the flames. No injuries, but a soggy mess that had to be piled into a dumpster and then hauled away without the flames. It's 6:29 p.m. That's it for CBC Windsor News. Don't forget, for more news, you can go to our website, cbc.ca/Windsor. We're also on social media. You can check us out on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Power and Politics is up next, already in progress. Thanks for watching. Make sure that you and your family have a safe night tonight.